And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to episode 100, and I've lost count, 123. I'm not TJ. I'm Kent, and this is Justin. Hi, Justin.
I'm also not TJ. I'm Justin. And I'm not Kent either.
You are, in fact. And I can't run this podcast without TJ. And yet, here we are. I'm like trying to be all official, trying to get the countdown right, trying to do the things with the audios and the things.
Episode 123.
Episode
123 episodes in a row of you doing the audio wrong in the very beginning of the show.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, right.
That's fair. I still don't know how to work my computer. That's all fun. Frank's here. What's up, Frank? So, who's this guy? Who are you?
My name is Justin. I am an assistant instructor for Green Mountain Defense. My computer is doing weird things. I'm an instructor for Green Mountain Defense, and I like to shoot some guns, learn about shooting guns.
You are an instructor for Green Mountain Defense. So, in the very Elon Musk-esque fashion, the way things have been going at Twitter, I'd like you to check your email for a meme that tells you you've been fired.
Okay, I was an instructor for Green Mountain Defense. As of 3 seconds ago, I'm looking for work. If any of my friends and associates are aware of any openings.
Don't worry. I know a couple companies in the local area you're going to be hiring real soon. Anyway. No, dudes, Justin Payne is Green Mountain Defense's second best AI. I don't know who the first is. Might be Hirsch, might be Frank, might be TJ. We will see. There's a lot of AIs coming around. Oh, shit. So what have you been doing, man? We taught a rifle class together like 10 days ago.
Yep, that was fun. Got to catch the back half of that. Other than that, just doing a day job.
Right.
Okay.
There's a story to this.
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a story. I am so very sorry. I am not referring to you with your proper title. Ladies and gentlemen, might I present to you Reverend Justin Payne?
Yeah, I think this is the thing now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now you have to tell the story. Why are you a reverend?
Well, I was all set to teach or assistant instructor, I should say, alongside Kent, our rifle class for the year. And, I don't know. About a week heading into it, I realized I was booked up in too many places at once. I had already committed myself on the calendar to go to a wedding for a dear friend of mine. Realized I had not RSVP'd because I didn't realize there was two sides to the invite. So once I looked at the other side of the invitation, after lifting it off of the refrigerator, I called him to make sure that I was still able to come. I wanted to make sure, I support my friend. So that was probably on like a Tuesday before the wedding. I think I get a phone call about 11:30 in the morning, the Thursday before the wedding, which was on Saturday. And my buddy is asking if I can help him out. Sure, what do you need, man? No problem. And he says that our officiant, the official that's supposed to marry us, has fallen through. They're not coming. And he says, also, the backup, not coming or can't make it for whatever reason. I think the backup got pulled into a different duty in the wedding. He says, we have no one to marry us in about 36 hours, 48 hours, whatever it was.
I don't suppose you're a reverend, are you?
Is that, how would you feel about marrying us? And I was like, okay. Like, so the first thought that hit my head was like, I have no idea how to do that. And then the second thought that hit my head was, F it, it doesn't matter. We're going to figure it out. Someone needs your help. You're going to help. You're going to figure it out. So, after I got control of my thoughts, I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Because the first thought, it just hit me. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he started to try to sell it to me. I interrupted him about 3 seconds later. And I said, it doesn't matter. I'm doing it. We're going to figure this out. I got you. Don't worry about it. He was very happy, thankful that I said yes. So we hung up, and it is now just before noon on Thursday. They're getting married at roughly, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that on Saturday. And I have to figure out what an officiant is, what they do, how I can do this.
You agreed to do it. You didn't know what it was.
I didn't know if I had the right clothing. I'm starting to ask questions about like the process. Like, obviously you can't dress up so much that you show up the bride and the groom or the wedding party. I had no idea what was going on. One thing that we did say was, he said, we're legally married. Don't worry about that part. The legal marriage is already a thing. This is really just the official, it's really just the ceremony for friends and family. So, don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be like legal. We're already legal. This is just for our loved ones. So, yeah, I just had to figure it all out on the fly. Took a day off of work on Friday that I wasn't
and
planned
Saturday.
on. And Saturday, because the day job on Friday and Saturday for Green Mountain Defense on Saturday. And I had to drive on down and sleep on a couch and use the Google Foo and come up with a script. And it was like, I don't know, like 9 a.m. the morning of, and I was like, so did you guys talk about like a script or what you were going to do or how this was going to unfold? And they said, no. I was like, so with the previous guy that was doing this, you guys didn't have a plan? No. Okay. All right. Well, do you guys want to say anything to each other? Do you have things you're going to say? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, basically I just flying by the seat of my pants in a matter of hours, figured it out and managed to convince everybody that I knew what I was doing. I never did get a chance to print out the script. I'm not very good at memorizing things. And I needed to read off of something. Well, I never got a chance to get to a printer and print the script that I had worked up into written form. And I'm thinking, man, all their official wedding photos, I'm going to be reading off of a cell phone. It's going to look so bad. And I started thinking, oh, you know what? I have my shooting bag in the car. And those of you that have taken shooting classes with me have probably seen me writing in this leather-bound notebook that I have that I take range notes in.
Wait, first of all, the Reverend brought guns and shit in shooting bags. That's not so much.
Of course. Oh, the groom is, I'm sleeping on the couch the night before. The groom's like, he's like, I wouldn't trust anybody else with this, but I'm sure you probably feel comfortable sleeping armed, right? And I was like, got it, covered. We're good. Don't worry about it. We're good. So he knows me really well. He knew what was up. But at any rate, I got this leather-bound notebook that I write notes in. It looks really official. It's roughly the right size of your pocket Bible or whatever. And so I have this thing in my hand, and I'm walking down the aisle, all official looking, with this book. And, the music's playing. And I'm like, all right. So I open the book in front of me, and I'm smiling, and I'm looking out at the audience, and I reach into my coat pocket, and I pull out my cell phone, and I drop it into the book when no one's looking, and I tilt the book at like a 45-degree angle so no one can see what I'm reading. And I begin to I'm smiling like, yeah, I'm reading my book, and I'm like typing away at the phone. And it was like, I thought it all the way through, right? Like I ran my car for like 20, 30 minutes before the event to make sure the phone didn't die in the middle of me reading the script. I put it in airplane mode so I'd get no text messages or phone calls that would interrupt the script while I'm reading it on my phone. I overrode the auto shut off, and so the phone would never shut off, so it wouldn't shut off on me. I overrode the automatic brightness so that it was as bright as it could be in the sunlight. Thought it all the way through. At this point now, I'm smiling. I'm like, yeah, everything's cool. And like wedding party's coming down. They're splitting off into their sides. And now the bride, beautiful bride, is now on the walkway coming in with her father. The music is changing. I look up. I'm in whatever the phone version of Word or whatever I was reading it in was. I'm just making sure that it's, one last scroll, make sure everything's set up, way to go, reading this document. And I go to the top of the document. I look up. Now the bride is 15 feet away. She's 12 feet away. She's, 6 feet away. The phone crashes. Total Hollywood movie. Could not make this up. The music is now shifted. He's lifting her veil. He's pecking his daughter on the cheek. He's giving her away. And I'm like smiling, like, oh my God, what the fuck? The phone just crashed. I have no idea what I'm going to say. And this total, I'm typing, I'm opening up screens, and I'm still smiling like I'm not sweating bullets right now. And man, so the funny part is I guess I should tell that part. It didn't crash per se as the document closed. So it's not so bad that the document closed and I'm looking at a parts explosion for a Mossberg 940 shotgun. As the bride is walking towards me, I see this explosion.
I would like to point something out at this moment, if I could interject.
Sure.
I have officially become a prophet, because that book is full of all sorts of smart shit that I've said and
Yes.
you wrote down.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So that is now our Bible. That is the Green Mountain Defense fucking Bible.
It's got it's got the word as mentioned by Kent Tower, Tim Herron, Scott Jedlinski. Yep, it's got the word by many of those people in the book.
All the instructor dudes.
Yep.
Yeah, you did Pressburg. Say to the
yes,
liberty.
exactly.
Like, oh my God, bro. The shit that's actually written in that book is like, don't be a pussy. Stand there and trade rounds.
Right.
Justin's like, it's a lovely day here in wherever the fuck we are.
Quote from Scott Jedlinski: "Your support hand is being a bitch."
Right. You flip through the Bible. Your support hand is being a bitch.
Right. Interesting. So yeah, the groom and the bride take each other's hands, and I'm frantically tapping keys trying to open this thing back up. They look at me and they make eye contact and they nod and they go, "We're ready." And I was like, awesome. And then it opened up and I immediately started reading. Like I would have started a heartbeat earlier without them having to like give me the go ahead, but I never even told them. I just was.
You should have got a timer out of your bag.
Yeah, I was struggling to get the program open. So, but we got through it. It turned out really well. I pulled that off better than I had hoped. Everyone thought I'd done it before, and I'm just inside. I'm like, wow, man, I really pulled that one off. I pulled the wool over their eyes real good. Like everyone thought I had done it before. So, yeah, it was a beautiful ceremony.
You gotta be shitting me. His fucking computer died in the middle of telling his fucking reverence story. Oh, God, you can't make this up with Justin. This is what happens when you have a Justin. I don't know if any of you have never had the privilege of having a Justin before. Let me explain to you a couple of things. It's just something else. Like, this guy, he couldn't have the worst, best luck in the history of ever. And now he's like, what's funny is I'm staring at like a little screen in the bottom of my screen with his face on it. And he's unable to talk until I let him back in. And he is just fucking rage. He's like, I'm trying to tell my story. Oh, let's click on him again. I didn't do that.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. Jesus did that, bro.
All right. He was mad that I was talking mad shit about that.
Yeah, you were talking mad shit. You made it the Bible. And Jesus kicked you off the podcast.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know what part of it you lost or heard.
So start from why you had to take off work on Saturday.
All right. So, anywho.
No, you've been gone about 20 seconds.
Yeah. But anyway, beautiful couple, beautiful ceremony, beautiful family. Made a lot of new friends. Cemented a bond with a valued friend in my life. Levi, you know who you are. He's got a beautiful woman that he's married. So, couldn't wish them, wish them the best, I guess I should say. So, yeah, it worked out. So, but I had to miss Saturday. So
let's hold on. Let's dissect a couple pieces of this wedding story. We got some time. Okay. It'll be fine.
Okay.
So let's talk about the phone call that you made to me after telling me that you were for sure teaching class, but you for sure weren't teaching class, but you for sure were. But then you called me and you're like, you're not going to believe this. I'm a reverend now. You literally told me on the phone that you were a reverend. So that's the start of it.
I don't think I remember the exact same.
Right. Well, Jesus kicked you off the podcast. I'm still talking. I'm right. Like, so something's true here. Now, dude. So one of the things I want to kind of sort of talk about this is the whole ethos attitude, like the shit we do for our friends. You were a little nervous about trying to go and do this for your friend. You had no problem shooting guns next to fucking Steve, for God's sakes. If anything's making anybody nervous, it should be that or David. Never mind. Fucking Steve's safe. David, we're scared about. David Brown, wherever you are, we're terrified of you. He was invited to the show, so he's gonna hear that. No, but like, you're not afraid to go shoot guns on gun range and teach class. You are afraid to get up in front of people's moms and shit and do reverend stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. It's a big day, right? It's like with very little preparation. And
I teach every gun class.
Sure. Yeah, it was, I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of trepidation immediately, like, oh, wow, how am I going to get through this? But some of the leadership and guidance that I've experienced through yourself, through some of our other friends and peers, like, Tim and Scott and, Frank and some of the other guys, Zach, all these guys, just some of the guidance and leadership and friendships that I've been fortunate to make. It was like, well, all these other guys that I look up to will figure this out. They'll just go with it. So that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, just kind of looked at the example set by those around me and decided I was going to try to be the best version of myself that I could be. And it was going to be what it was going to be.
And you also built a wedding arbor.
I did. Yeah, that was also funny. So I love Levi to death. If you see this Levi, you know I do. But he was a bit overwhelmed on the day of. He had
is Levi the groom or the groom?
He's the groom.
Yeah.
The groom. I'm not gonna go. He's the groom. Anyway, he was a bit overwhelmed. I think he had underestimated how much time was needed for each project. And God love him, we would ask him, hey, Levi, what can we do to help? And he would be like, man, just be here, just relax, like have a drink, have fun, like be part of the family. It's awesome. Don't worry about it. And he'd be on whatever layer of a project. He'd finish it. We're like, all right, cool. So what's next? Like cigars, drinks, like hanging out. Oh, no, I got this to do. Oh, no, I got that to do. And after a while, I was like, all right, what do you have to do still before you get married? Because I think you might need a little bit of assistance from us. So long story short, I got pulled into putting the finishing touches onto the gazebo, like the structure that you actually get married.
By finishing touches, you mean making a gazebo?
No, the gazebo was structured and stood up between Levi and his dad. They got it in the ground and up, but I wasn't aware that they wanted further dress up. There was some decoration on it, but they wanted draperies and foo-foo fluffy things and pretty lights and all kinds of stuff on it. And
draperies has never been said on this show.
What's that?
Draperies has never.
They wanted draperies.
Oh my god! I think the part where you told me you went out and got the staple gun out of your shooting bag.
I did. That was the funniest part. Was he was like, "How am I going to hang this drape off of this structure?" And I was like, "You know what? I got this. Don't worry about it." And he kind of looked at me and kind of was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "I got a staple gun for targets and right here." And he goes, "Oh, you're a lifesaver." So I got my staple gun for stapling targets up at the range, and I'm just stapling drapes into the upright to make it look what we want it to look like. Turned out okay. So yeah, I'm
rig out, and it was a shotgun wedding.
That's right. Yeah. So it was fun. We were multitasking. We were filling all the roles we needed to fill to make the moment happen. So
God Almighty, that's funny shit.
And then drove back the same night, all the way back from Delaware to Maryland. Or I'm sorry, I don't live in Maryland anymore. Drove from Delaware back to PA to get to sleep, to be an hour north on the range with you at 8 a.m. the next morning. So we made it all.
You showed up promptly at 8:45, and we had a good day.
No, I was actually pretty on time for. I mean, I was pretty good that Sunday. If I do say so myself.
Oh my goodness. And then like a boss goes from being Reverend Payne to like, hey, welcome to gun class. Demo. Time to demo. Now you must demo.
Yeah. Freaking Kent goes, hey, are you cold? And yeah, I'm like, I feel all right. This sweater's great, or whatever. I said something stupid like, oh, this layer's good. Why are you cold? And he goes, no, you're shooting the drill. Go. And I'm like, well, yeah. Let me just take this gun that's been in the corner as my home defense rifle for the last 9 months. And I'll just, I'll load it up with target rounds and just hope it doesn't blow up in my hands. That's cool. Like, so, taught myself a lesson there. Yeah, I ran a cold drill because those are the first trigger pulls on that gun in months. And for the first time ever, I experienced one of those random Gremlin zero shifts that people talk about that I had never experienced before. Literally, like you were with me, and Steve Dar was with me. Some of the last times I used that rifle, and it was spot on with the same ammo. And I don't know if it was because I took my can on and off a couple times. I don't know what it was
you
that I did.
Impersonated a reverend the day before.
Probably I got
reach down and turn that dial, bro.
Lightning bolt. But yeah, man, it I hit the minimum just barely, but the bullets weren't impacting where they were supposed to. So then the rest of the class, I'm holding to get the hits I wanted to get. But it worked out. It worked out.
Well, that's a good shift. All right. So that was an adorable story about Justin being a reverend. It serves as a as a couple things. So like, dudes, if you're leading people and one of them comes to you and says, "Hey, we got a fucking problem here," and your response isn't, "Well, let's mutually solve the problem to our own amusement," you're fucking it up. Because like, I could have been like, "No, you got to come to gun class," and I'm like, "Wait, you get to be a pastor?" Like, you pretty much have got to be a pastor in that moment, right? Like, he'll never be a pastor again, except for the other 15 weddings that he doesn't know I booked. He thinks he's an AI. He's now going to be a wedding officiant at the new property coming up. He's gonna be up at the range teaching gun classes. Like, why are these people wearing formal wedding clothes? Be like, no reason. I just sold the shotgun wedding package. It's fine.
Yep,
it'll be fine.
As long as we're not required to use our Mossberg 940s, it'll be fine.
I don't want to hear it. That's the best gun that's ever been made. You broke yours. It's your fault. When the Lord calls you, says Steve. Yeah, exactly. The Lord doth call. Old Justin of Pain. Oh shit! So we're here to talk about LVPOs and PSDs because TJ likes acronyms, and then he doesn't show up to the show that he likes acronyms for. Yes, TJ's alive. No, TJ and I aren't fighting. I know I bailed out on him last week, and he bailed out on me this week. Our marriage is still intact. It's 100% fine. It's just, oh, damn, Doc. Doc, good night. Sorry, wife is naked. Well, Doc, you do you. Oh, shit. So, here's the deal. Let's talk about LVPOs first, or LPVOs, or LOPVs, or whatever. Low power variable optics. Justin, you're a big fan of low power variable optics. You're an expert. You love them. They're the best thing ever.
And scene, go.
Yeah, right. No, not the thing.
So I don't have nearly the depth of experience on rifles that I do on pistols. More than shotguns, but less than pistols. We were last time.
Rifles are your handicap.
It depends on who you're talking to and under what conditions.
Just curious.
So
moving on.
Yeah. Touchy. What the hell was I saying, man?
I got the bifida.
What was I saying?
I don't
rifles,
have really the
rifles. Experience. Yeah. So when Kent and I were talking last, I realized the longest shots I've ever taken with a rifle, simply because of the circumstances. I did one 3-gun competition one time where I was taking shots that they told me were somewhere in the vague 160 to 180 yard range. And I was shooting an array of steel plates that were something like 6 inches, I think they told me, maybe slightly larger. But I have an older red dot with a 3 MOA dot. And I remember as I was placing my dot on those plates, it was pretty much they were disappearing behind the dot. There wasn't a lot of plate left once you centered the dot on the plate. And I had never taken live fire, honestly, not even really at like 100 yards, let alone like 170 or whatever I was shooting. So I was really just trusting the fact that I had done my due diligence, doing my best to calculate the zero based on strict standards at like 20 yards on an indoor range. And it worked out, and I cleared the plates, and everything went yay. But that was really the longest shots, and really the only time I've ever fired at anything over 100 yards. So when we come into LVPOs, I'm a big fan of lighter weight I guess, easier to maneuver rifles. I start to get real bitchy and whiny really fast when my gun starts gathering weight, which is, if you guys have ever modified a adult Lego that is the AR-15, you're quite aware of how quickly you can start adding weight to that gun and change the handling characteristics of that firearm for better or for worse. So I just, first time I put an LVPO on the gun, I'm like, this thing is heavy, it sucks. And as I attempt to find my eye box, I'm like, this isn't easy, it's difficult, I don't like it, it's not repeatable, I don't like it, and I'm not really sure I'm sold on what the value of this is. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm with LVPOs. I have used one in one class. I did use an LVPO with Rapier in his class. That was the only time I've ever
shot really run an LVPO with a Navy SEAL. God damn it!
I did.
America.
That was pretty cool.
It's true.
Did enjoy that class a lot, but that's the only time I've ever really used one under any kind of training environment. I don't shoot rifles that often. Green Mountain Defense typically shoots rifles on average once or twice a year in our classes, and often Kent and I with our well, you might. I don't work the same schedule as you. I have a day job still. You shoot them more. Okay, let me requant. I only shoot rifles with Green Mountain Defense maybe once or twice a year.
There we go.
So there are only 1 or 2 on the schedule per year.
All the people who have taken rifle training in the last year are going to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but they're not scheduled on the website and everything. Not like the on the calendar ahead of the.
You know, we do a little on the slide. We don't invite everybody and everything. You know, it's a thing.
So, anywho, I don't shoot it a whole lot. We'll sometimes shoot it. What we got like about 1-2 gun a year, maybe sometimes 2 if we're lucky at our local matches.
Yep.
This year we didn't even have one. So I just don't get a lot of time with the LVPOs, and the little bit of time that I've had, they appear to be overly heavy, overly difficult to use. In the context that I've used them, for example, in the competition sphere, anywhere from 15 yards to 50 yards that we're normally shooting on our stages, I don't require it, and I'm much faster than everybody else who's using it. So I'm still somewhat unconvinced in my own personal experience that it's a necessary evil. I just haven't been convinced yet. I'm not saying I hate them or there's no place for them. I just still, I think, require convincing. But we had a really great conversation earlier today that hopefully we will we'll share with the viewers now. So.
Yeah, I love it when you accidentally humble brag.
Okay.
Reverend Payne, and I quote, "I'm much faster with the other people using them than the other people who are using them."
Oh, it's true.
That's even better. Hey, bartender.
Not getting you another one.
Okay, well.
No. Understand me. Like when you have a red dot and you're just coming up fast in the red dot to drill the targets at like 20 yards, and everybody else is like hunting for that eye box and that sight picture, and they're busy doing this the whole time.
You hear
like
this? Steve's talking shit.
What's Steve talking stuff?
No, you're talking shit. Steve's over there like much faster than who?
Well, Steve, you haven't fired a 2-gun with us yet, so.
Hey, did he won the last one?
Was Steve at the last 2-gun?
He won it. He came to the Stephen Kent Invitational 2-gun, and I didn't shoot, so he was first place.
Oh, understood. Okay.
Yeah, he won the last one.
Well, he watched me absolutely crap the bed with my pistol caliber carbine, so he gets to talk stuff. So,
bro, why are you even on the rifle episode? I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, I quote, 60, 90 days before this happened, Kent goes, "We should do a pistol caliber carbine match. Won't that be fun?" Yeah, Kent, that does sound like that'd be fun. We should do that. So I order a barrel, an upper, and a handguard, and I assemble them together, and then I rob the guts out of my existing upper because I have this little stubby 9mm piece of crap that I just don't like shooting. I built it because I could, and I don't like it. So I built a 16-inch upper that I could use in PCC. And Kent's like, yeah, shooting PCC, that'll be a lot of fun. And the next month gets canceled, got rained out and canceled. And then, so now I guess 60 days later, we're coming up to the next annual match. Kent has, I don't know, shiny squirreled himself off into a corner, completely forgot what he said 60 days ago, had decided to make since they gave him free reign to design the stages, has designed a pistol stage, headshot John Wick extraordinaire with all the innocence all around everything.
Yes.
Everything's for left-handers because fuck all of us because they can't make it. And literally everything's a John Wick, shoot it in the face, and don't miss because they're surrounded by innocent people everywhere, and everything's left-handed. And I show up with a pistol caliber carbine that I've never used. Like, I've literally function tested it, and I had a squib. You were there for that. So, like, hardly any actual and I have to like do holdovers and stuff, which my very first holdover attempt was less than proper. I did not hold high enough, and I drilled an innocent, sadly. And that was like my first and second trigger pulls of the day. I'm like, oh, I see how this is going to go. And then he kept making me transition shoulders and move to the left as a right-handed shooter. It was, that's right, consequences. That's right. So, yeah, thanks for ruining the fun I would have had on that day with your left-handed John Wick face shooter. So anyway, Steve Dar got to watch me crap the bed on that. So I have to do better if I'm going to continue operating a long gun in those situations. I have a long way to go.
The fact that I just happen to have a Sharpie laying here, fucking, I'm telling you.
Sign from above. It's the sign from above podcast. That's what it is.
That's what it is. You're the Reverend. I don't know shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, low variable power optics. Justin doesn't like them. He says they're a terrible idea.
Unconvinced. Yes. Unconvinced.
He's unconvinced.
I want to be convinced. Convince me.
All right. So we could make this a couple ways. We could either do this conversation about me trying to convince you that they're a good idea, or you could ask me questions about them.
Okay.
Let's do it. Why don't you ask me?
Okay.
Because our phone call was you asking me questions about them. So let's kind of rehash that.
Yeah. Okay. So after I was done bitching and moaning about how heavy the gun gets when you add a scope to it, I think the first relevant question I recollect asking was, and I used an analogy immediately, like the analogy with pistol-mounted flashlights, right?
Which is
a lot of us wear them. A combination of just to have it in case we need it, and a combination of it makes holster stuff easy when we own like a whole many dozens of different types of firearms. But we also know we can't search with a pistol-mounted light because that we end up pointing a gun at something that we have not yet determined requires a gun being pointed at it. So while there is, and technique comes into play with that. You know, you have to, if you're going to use it for searching, you need to use technique properly prior to using it to actually shine in on a target. So along that analogy of like, we don't aim a pistol with a flashlight at something to see what's in their hands. What's in their hands? Let me aim the gun at them to see what's in their hands, right? I kind of, in my mind, was thinking the same thing about PID. You keep hearing, well, the reason you have magnification is for PID, so that you can tell what's in someone's hands. And I just had a hard time mentally, from a theory perspective, understanding how it would be acceptable. Like, well, I have to point a rifle at them in order to dial in and figure out what's in their hands. So how is that okay? Because now I've pointed a gun at something to try to figure out if I need to point a gun at something. Like, it just mentally, I hit a barrier there. So we started with that, I think.
All right. So let's first define PID, because somebody's going to hear this and I have no idea what we're talking about. Justin, what is PID?
Positive identification.
Who is that? What is that? Does it deserve ballistics? Right? Rule number 4, know your target. What is beyond your target? You are responsible for the eventual terminus of your projectile. Quote unquote, Hirsch Gooden, 1902, probably. Right? Colorized. Okay. So, bottom line is angles and eventual placement of that shot relative to everything around you. Nobody cares if you smoke the bad guy if the round goes through the bad guy and smokes a bus full of nuns behind him. Nobody cares if in the attempt to smoke the bad guy, 9 out of your 10 rounds go right into the freaking, high thoracic, but your 10th round goes past his shoulder blade and ends up hitting my kid. Okay? So PID has a whole bunch of different connotations to it. So when we talk PID with pistols and pistol weapon mounted lights, we should realize a couple things. Number one, we shouldn't be drawing a pistol unless we're reasonably convinced of a threat, right? So in our home, in a parking garage, wherever we might be, we're not just drawing a pistol and like looking for problems. If we're drawing a pistol, it's because we're pretty goddamn well sure there is a problem, or at least we have reasonable suspicion to believe so. Example, I'm in my home. Nobody should be in my home. My alarm goes off. I know my wife's in bed. There should be no other adults capable of setting the alarm off in my home, which means if I get a pistol out, hey, man, like I reasonably suspect I'm about to need this bitch. Does that mean we advocate for pointing the pistol straight on target and looking for threats? No. With today's weapon light technology, we can orient the pistol in a number of different ready positions and still use light splashing techniques to PID to positively identify a threat without actually being tip on and having sights on target and having that target be directly downrange of a casualty inducing tool. So that's PID with a pistol light. Where PID with a pistol light gets fucked up is the movies where the cops are like walking around the house and the structure and they're like searching with the light and doing all that kind of shit. Or they walk up on a traffic stop and for no reason whatsoever, they skin leather and fucking light up the car with light before they light up the car with bullets. That shit better be a felony stop and we better know who the fuck did what before we start going to that crap, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So from a concealed carry perspective, we carry handhelds, right? Because PID is done with a handheld first in most cases, and then we transition to weapon-mounted white light. Now, as far as like, let's talk about PID with a low variable power optic. If we're PIDing something through an optic, for me, this is really a hunting conversation. I've got some time. If I'm on an optic and I'm using I'm searching and PIDing, that means I've got some time to be doing so, which means I'm kind of laid back in the sagebrush. I'm dialing up the vortex, the 10 by 50 binos, and I'm searching for a group of animals, and I see a group of animals. I go, holy shit, there's a shooter in that group. I get on the rifle. I dial up some magnification. I say, hey, look, in fact, there is a shooter in that group, and that's him. I dial back some magnification a little bit to get better field of view to make sure there's not something in my scope that I don't intend to hit. I find the breadbasket. I send the shot. End of story, right? As far as a defensive or offensive perspective of PID, now we're talking about, using magnification to get a shot on an enemy combatant, maybe back in a tree line or in some vegetation or something like that, or maybe deep in a building, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if we're in a situation where we're responding to a lethal threat or a casualty kind of deal, I don't have a lot of time to be on the binos in the sagebrush and then switch to the rifle, then binos, then rifle, then binos, then rifle, which means by necessity, we kind of sort of got to break rule 4 for a minute in order to honor rule 4, right? Like we got to fuck up with PID a little bit, and then we got to go back to rule 3 and point a gun at something we don't intend to destroy in order to properly PID through an LVPO. So Justin's got a good point in terms of in terms of dogma or in terms of traditionally taught firearm safety rules, and he's not wrong. Because we're taught, hey, don't point a gun at something you don't intend to destroy, while at the same time we're talking about, well, dial the magnification on that scope up enough to see if that's some shit you want to hit or not. Well, are we pointing a rifle in the general direction of that? Sure. Are we on the reticle on the target? Not necessarily, but we're getting close. Bottom line, I'd rather have the capability than not in terms of not a war story guy. like, or a cool guy story guy. But the one time I'm really glad I didn't shoot somebody was because of positive identification. The only reason I didn't smoke the old lady with dementia who was no shit in my home was because I positively ID'd her. That's all, right? Did I positively ID her through an optic and through a white light? Yeah, kinda. Yeah, kinda. Like, if we're being real, we have to accept the fact that this story means Kent kind of sort of pointed a rifle at an old lady in his house. She is alive today. No shots were fired, right? Because PID was a thing. If there wouldn't have been a white light on the end of that gun, she probably would not have been PID'd. And she'd be dead. So, sample size of one time, right? Teachings and methodologies, and there's a reason we espouse the stuff we espouse. Worked out as it turns out, right? I take your meaning though. I think if you look at PID in the traditional sense of like, I'm really going to look for a threat and, oh, there's a threat. Now I'm going to zero in on the threat. I think to me, it's like, hey man, I'm taking incoming fire from that tree line. I need to find who's shooting at me in the tree line, right? Like, I know we got a problem over there. I just don't know who and where. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you had mentioned something that really clicked with me, harkening back to my story about how my dot covered the entirety of my target. It would have been hard to kind of make out
Right.
details and things of that nature. So that right there was kind of like, all right, you kind of sold me on the idea of like magnification in the like the sight mounted to the weapon or the firearm, because just not having a fine enough detailed aiming point, not having enough magnification to get hits on target at a given distance. The analogy right now of a tree line and finding out where that's coming from, a lot of that does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you're going to have a 3-power magnifier and a red dot. I don't care who makes it. Go tell me what the best 3-power red dot magnification combo is. I'm going to tell you it's probably the EOTech. Right, like they're the company that make a really good magnifier and a really good red dot and a really good combination of magnifier and red dot. Aim point too, but like pick an EOTech or an aim point combo, and go ahead and you tell me like PID blue versus green versus red, and tell me who we're fighting over there, right? I don't know, PID. This is a rough one, but we had this conversation about the Uvalde kid and the cop who was on the long gun and who had the opportunity to shoot the Uvalde kid and did not. PID, that little spawn of Satan with a 3-power magnifier. I have no idea what that dude had. I know he had a long gun. That's all we know for sure. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you had a Vortex 1-6, he might have had better field of view, and he might have had a little more time to make those decisions. Might have been able to flip that safety off and fucking end that thing. We just don't know. I'll tell you right now, on the Vortex 1-6, on the primary arms 1-8 Platinum Series, and on this new EOTech Voodoo now that I'm running the EOTech Voodoo 1-10 on the really nice rifle that Steve in the chat for sure didn't build for me because he's from Maryland and will probably get jailed for something he touched. I have no idea. But man, like some of those optics, I'm telling you right now, I've got a good enough field of view that I could do some serious work at the full 10x or 6x or 8x magnification. But 1-time mags, 2-time mags, 3-time magnifications. I can crank the thing the whole way up, all the way out on the telescope, and I still have a usable field of view. So for me, I'll tell you right now, if Kent is going to make the Uvalde shot and make the Uvalde shot decision at the same time, you want Kent to have an LVPO. That's what it is for me. If you want, you know, Sergeant next to me says, hey, black hoodie, weapons free, heard that, crack, 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 sure. But if you want me to make the decision and identify tools and get a good enough field of view and get a leading shot on somebody moving, you want me doing that through a scope. You want me doing that through an LVPO. And here's the thing, scopes are nothing new on rifles. Like, for those of you who are like listening or watching and you're like, fucking, you guys are talking like this is new shit. Like, my granddaddy had a 3x9 Nikon in 1988. I know. What we're talking about is the ability to incorporate almost 1x, almost like red dot like performance at the low end of the magnification, and 6 or 8 or 4 or 10x cranked it up at the other end to the point where you can get the best of both worlds, hopefully, right? That's a relatively new concept, and having something that's amenable to being mounted on a fighting gas gun, like a 5.56 AR-15 kind of thing, that's really the new tech here. And when I say new tech, keep in mind in the firearms industry, we're talking decades or we're talking here since like 2010 forward, LVPOs have been a relatively new concept. And here since like 2015 forward, they've been a popular concept. I can think, for an example, of the Leopold Scout Scope on like a scout rifle, a Jeff Cooper gunsight scout rifle is a good example. Something with 2x all the way up to 7x was pretty much unheard of. And they make a real small tube diameter in order to get that done. Now we've got a 1 to 10 by 28, which means 1 power to 10 power by 28 field of view, and a 34 millimeter tube, a nice big fat tube while we're at it. So you got a ton of light gathering. We got a real good objective lens size, like a real usable objective lens size. We've got etched reticles, which means we're not going to lose reticles in daylight or anything like that, or dark. We've got the ability to run illumination. We've got the ability to run first focal plane so that we can actually put a bullet drop compensating reticle, a mil reticle, or an MOA reticle in the gun. We've got a whole shitload of capabilities packed into shit. I don't know, somewhere between a $1,000 to $3,000 tool. And I'm talking just the optic now, not the rifle or anything else. We're talking $1,000 to $3,000 for a quality LVPO, right? And I would submit that, quite honestly, that's really the sticking point for a lot of people, is the cost. Because, like, hey, man, for $1,000, I can get the world's best red dot and the world's best magnifier. Whatever I believe those two things are. For now, we'll talk EOTech and Aimpoint, Ford and Chevy, right? But for a grand, or like, I can go up to Euro Optic right now and get a kick-ass EOTech and a kick-ass EOTech magnifier. And I can have the capability of making shots a couple hundred yards. I can get out to 500-600 yards like that. And that's awesome capability. That's making the shot. That's hitting the thing. You better know what the thing is you're shooting at. Otherwise, you're going to, when you magnify a red dot like that, you're magnifying the whole red dot. A red dot with a magnifier is a true second focal plane optic, which means your 2 MOA red dot is now most like taking up an 8-inch plate at 300 yards. So it's hard to see, right? So that's where I'm at. What about the weight thing? So you're talking about handling characteristics. You really think it's that bad?
I notice it. I definitely notice it. Bad is in like, is it livable? It's absolutely livable. It's not the end of the world. It's kind of like when people bitch about recoil on an AR-15. Yes, it has recoil. It doesn't mean it's unlivable recoil. I mean, So yes, I definitely notice the weight and the handling characteristics of the rifle changes. It's very similar to like anybody who shoots clay birds. You shoot a semi-automatic single-barreled shotgun, and at least from my perspective, they are a little easier to swing than the over-under two-barreled shotguns that have a lot of steel out in front of them, which are much more ponderous. But once they get moving, they get moving. It's a very similar feeling on the rifle. Is it livable? Sure. Do I personally feel more comfortable with a lightweight gun that I can move around a little bit easier with a little bit less muscles? Yeah, I do. I like the lighter weight guns within reason. So maybe
now,
it's just
is that because of the bifida or like?
Yeah, it could just be because I've got ancient stuff on my gun that is not like there's weight savings to be had. I probably need to look a little harder at where I can trim weight.
That was not my question.
Is it the palsy, you mean?
Oh, the palsy. That's right. I thought it was
palsy.
The bifida.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, totally livable. I just not a huge fan of my perception of the weight, but maybe I just need to get good and lift more, bro, and just get used to it. I mean, I probably just need to use it more so I feel more comfortable with it. It's we're in an environment here in Pennsylvania where there's not a lot of places to shoot beyond 100 yards easily. So, and really the big thing that's stopping me is the damn cost, man. It is expensive
Yep.
to throw that level of. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. I had a cart full of ammunition the other day that I didn't click buy on that was $1,500 or somewhere in that range, and I've been lusting after building myself a new rifle for like 2 years, and I've never, pulled the trigger on that. And I got friends trying to convince me to buy new computers right now because everything's so affordable. I got car repairs on the horizon.
Wait a minute. What do you mean the computers and stuff so affordable?
Oh, apparently right now for Black Friday and the holiday season, there's like crazy deals to be had for building computers. A lot of the people, a lot of
computers.
Computers for anything really, but gaming mainly, multimedia uses. So if you need a new podcasting computer, maybe now's the time to hit TJ up and figure it out. But I've also kind of moved a little bit. I used to be a gamer. I used to play a lot of digital content and stuff prior to getting heavily into guns. Now that I'm heavily into this environment, anybody else who's done it with me will understand. It's like it costs to train, and a hard time putting $1,500 into a gaming computer when I've got umpteen dozen different guns and accessories and ammunition types and gun safes and all kinds of shenanigans that training trips and travel and hotel and food and it's just, man, it's never ending. And it's like, do I really need a freaking computer? No, but I need to figure out how to get an LVPO on my rifle. So
I gave you an LVPO.
I have one. I do have one LVPO.
Who gave it to you?
Which is where yes, it was a gift for my birthday. Yeah, I turned the big 4-0 in the middle of COVID. And nobody cared because everyone was busy trying to avoid death, except for Kent. And so
there we go,
where they took me in and gave me a nice steak and gifted me with a good scope. Oh, and some very good rum. Tim Herron knows what I'm talking about. You've had it too. Oh. Excellent rum from the local spot up there by the Howers.
Dude, Crosswater Distilleries. If you guys want to Yup.
Yep.
You guys want to sponsor a podcast or a firearms training company?
Mm-hmm.
Holler at your boy. Holy crap, is that stuff good?
That stuff is good.
So, let's see. Other reasons LVPOs are fandicular that are awesome. BDC reticles. Ballistic math, all done for you. Right? Bullet drop compensators.
Yeah, and to the point that I think you kind of sold me during conversation earlier tonight, when thinking about the idea of magnifying your red dot, you also magnify your point of aim.
Yeah.
With an LVPO, you still maintain a more precise point of aim. So,
well,
hard
with
to
the
argue with
first
that.
focal plane LVPO, you do.
Yes, yeah.
So let's define that. First focal plane means that the reticle is retched on the very first piece of glass you see. Second focal plane means the reticle is etched on the second piece of glass you see.
Reticle is retched.
Reticle is etched.
There we go.
Is that not what I said?
He said reticle is retched.
Fuck, bro. That's like the third time that's happened to me today. I swear to God I had a stroke. I'll tell you off air about the reason I had a stroke, but I think I might have had a stroke. Holy fuck. Oh, that's scary. No, the reticle is etched on the first piece of glass versus being etched on the second piece of glass. So if the reticle is on the objective lens on the outside, that means all the magnification is happening before you see the reticle. So when you spin the dials, you are in fact magnifying the reticle too, which means that the reticle is only actually useful in one fixed known distance. Now, everybody says that's maximum distance, and that's not actually true. On a second focal plane optic, the reticle is only good at whatever magnification you use to zero the gun. Okay? So if you zero the gun at 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x, all the way up to 10, that means that the magnification is only, Tony, I got it. I can do it. It's fine. I've not had a stroke. Here, I can. It's fine. I swear. I just, long day.
Do you smell toast?
Yeah, but that's probably because Sophie's making James toast. The reticle is on the second piece of glass, so you are magnifying the reticle, which means that the reticle is not the same size regardless of distance. So that means that your zero is only good at whatever magnification you zeroed at. Now, most people want to zero at either 1x or all the x. You know, on a 1 to 6 or 1 to 8 or a 1 to 10, they'll zero at 8, 6, or 10. And they'll say, oh, yeah, well, now my reticle's good everywhere. No, motherfucker, it ain't, because it was way over or under magnified depending. So with the first focal plane optic, the reticle is on the very first piece of glass you see, meaning that it happens before the magnification, meaning that 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x, all the way out to 10 or 12 or 40. Someday there'll be a 1 to 40 LVPO. Right now, the 1 to 10s are the thing. You heard it here first. Vortex has a 1 to 12 coming out. I don't even know that for sure, but like I promise, Vortex has a 1 to 12 coming out. Like that's going to be a thing, right? So somebody will have a 1 to 12 someday, etc. Point being that reticle is the same size regardless of what the magnification is because it's before all the magnification happens. So if you're going to buy an LVPO, you want to buy a first focal plane LVPO if you give a shit about bullet drop compensation. So if you care about your reticle, right? If you want a little chevron or if you want a crosshair or if you want a Christmas tree or whatever you want, if you care about that, you want the first focal plane. If you don't care about that, you might as well buy a gun with a damn crosshair or a fiery red dot in the middle of it. Because ain't nobody give a shit because there is no BDC in that. There's no bullet drop compensation. But I love the bullet drop compensation. Tony, and smile just to be sure. You made me smile by reading your comment. There, look, see? Like, huh? It's fine, right? Everything's fine.
You've got the palsy.
I might have the palsy. Yeah. So that's the deal, right? LVPOs, bullet drop compensating. It's a thing. I really, really, really appreciate bullet drop compensation in a rifle that I'm, again, why am I on a gas gun? I'm on a gas gun because I have to make quick shots. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on a damn gas gun. So if I have to make some quick shots, that probably means I need to be pretty aggressive with my speed, which means it's good to have a couple of hash marks prefigured out on your dope. Data on previous engagements, dope. There's a lot of acronyms in this episode. Holy fuck. Dope is data on previous engagements. So we know what our holdovers and hold unders and all that are.
Can I bring up a question that I've got about that?
Yeah.
A lighted reticle, right? So you just mentioned speed, speed on target, gas gun, blah blah blah. What about the etched reticle that when the battery dies, how usable is that black reticle on some of nature's backgrounds? Dark greens and browns and things like that. Where, is it a problem getting
Dude, I grew up hunting with a Nikon Pro Staff 3 to 9x40 mounted on a 30-30, zeroed by a guy who I found out later didn't know shit about zeroing guns compared to what I know now. Was not a problem for me. So no, right? Illuminated reticles are only a thing in my life over the last 15 years. So I shot 15 years of rifles without illuminated reticles. Of course, I shot 15 years of rifles without illuminated reticles from the age of 5 to 20 when my eyes were almost perfect. So, maybe. But
well, I mean, you had perfect eyes?
I said almost.
What happened?
I don't know. I'm blind. No, I've always been blind. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. The battery in one of my LVPOs died during the last rifle class.
Okay. Yeah, because that's a perfect example, right? So what were we doing for what was a huge part of that curriculum? B8s, right? So you're on a black background for a big chunk of that. So you got a black etched reticle on a black background, and it's like in that scenario that's taking your time and getting your hits was more likely your focus, but I could just imagine.
I shot a 399.75 with a black reticle on a black background.
Yeah.
Almost perfect. The judges told me later it was in fact not perfect. I wanted to believe.
Shout out to Steve.
Steve. No,
I see you, Steve.
No. I mean, hey, he's right, by the way.
No, yeah, I mean, it was.
He's right. It's
dude,
not. It wasn't a hit. It was
so close. It was so close.
It was a hit. It just wasn't an X ring 10, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. No, but you're right. But anyway, yeah, I did that without a battery in that gun.
Yeah, and my red dot battery was dying during that. So because my zero was off, I was holding on the white with no real aiming point trying to shoot mine. So
see that, and that's the difference between a primary arms and a Vortex or a EOTech or a Leo.
Well, this was an MRO on this gun.
Right. So on my gun, I'm talking though.
Okay.
I shot that whole class with the primary arms Platinum series, which is a fantastic optic except for battery life. That's the only problem.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear this point. Battery life on an LVPO.
Okay. So primary arms Platinum series MSRP $1,300. Battery life, nope. It's just I got nothing for you. It's days. Vortex Razor 1-6. It's behind me and it's still on. And it's fucking been on. And it gets changed on the same schedule as the pistol optics do. Birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So Vortex, boop. Primary arms, not so much.
Now, do you have the bullet?
We'll see.
Okay.
On the EOTech, here's the thing. On the EOTech Voodoo that I mounted on what I'm going to call the DAR Experience, or I don't know what, the Stevo rifle, right? That bitch has been on since I own the optic. It's already outperformed the primary arms. It's already 20 days old or whatever. Still better. That fucker's been on 10. Steve built me such a good rifle. The fucking rifle is already upstairs. If you know anything about the house configuration, that means I'm already moderately depending on it for use for real. It's not down here in the fucking safe with all the other teaching shit. It's already upstairs. I don't know, bro. That optic's been on the whole time. So you know, if the companies are cutting corners, I don't know what voodoo magic it is that makes an optic have better battery life. But so far, Vortex, yup. Vortex a couple times, yup, by the way. Trijicon a couple times. I've got Trijicon LVPOs. Those have battery life. Made it to the majors. Yeah, you made it to me. Absolutely, dude. Let's see. I've got LVPOs from Vortex. I've got LVPOs from Trijicon. I've got them from EOTech now. Well, I had one from EOTech, then I sent it back. Now I have the other one in a demo environment, in a T&E environment, not like send it back because there's a problem with it, and have them from Primary Arms. And they're all great, but I'll tell you right now, the Primary Arms, just the battery life ain't there. The reticle's great. The illumination's great. It's daylight bright, but it's daylight bright for a fucking day. I better change that shit. So,
do you have the bullet drop reticle for that as well? I know there's a couple options for that scope. You have the BDC reticle,
one?
or you? What was that?
For which one?
The Vortex Razor HD.
Yeah, I have the JM, the Jerry Michalek BDC Pro.
Okay,
is the one I have, the Vortex Razor 1-6.
Gotcha.
So yes, I have a BDC in that. Yep, I have a BDC in the Primary Arms. I do not have a BDC in the Trijicon, and now I do have a BDC in the EOTech.
Now, do you?
And when I say y'all, and I should mention right on as well. I have some right-on stuff in LVPOs. But when I say I have experience in something, I'm talking about like there's 4 Vortex scopes, there's 2 or 3 Trijicon scopes. I'm now on my second EOTech scope, and I'm on my 3rd or 4th Primary Arm scope. So I'm not, when we're talking experience on equipment, we're not talking sample size of one tool, y'all. So like there's 5 or 6 Vortex optics in this house right now. There's 2 Trijicon optics in this house right now. There's 1 EOTech in here right now. And there's a couple Primary Arms right now. So we're not talking like it might be the same optic or pretty close, but I'm talking multiple of the same thing, if that makes any sense. So it's good shit. I like to have a couple different examples. But I like having a BDC. I really, really, really like the reticle to do some ranging for me. Actually, funny enough, my favorite reticle is the Primary Arms ACSS. The chevron with the ranging capabilities inside the chevron. I love that shit. If I could put that reticle in a Vortex Razor, I'd be all about it. Primary Arms ain't gonna love to hear me say that, but is the truth.
Well, they don't have a 1 to 10 yet, as far as I know. So,
well, they absolutely do. It's just not on the market yet.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. As far as I know.
Yeah, right. So that's the whole thing. Like this is the cell phone thing. Like the iPhone 20 is already out somewhere. You just don't nobody knows it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I got one either. I'm just damn well there's a 1 to 12 out there already. And you know what I mean? Like that shit's been done. It just hasn't been.
Do you think like those Christmas tree reticles that are kind of all the rage on a lot of different optics? You think those are a little too busy?
No, I don't.
Is it possible to have a reticle that's too busy and distracting for a given purpose?
Sure. Okay, so if you had a Christmas tree reticle on a second focal plane scope that grew no matter where you were, so if you took the reticle out of my EOTech Voodoo and put it in a second focal plane scope, there'd be way too much shit going on. Because when you dialed out to 10, all you'd see is the fucking Christmas tree. You wouldn't see anything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But no, in first focal plane, no, I don't.
So what about mounts for optics?
Oh, okay.
That has to play a role, right? Since that's interface between your firearm and your optic?
Sure. So, oh, this is fun. FTT 221, Firearms Technology and Training, class number 221 at Sonoran Desert Institute, taught by yours truly.
Clearly, the best mount's got to be like the lightest weight mount, right?
No.
That's the one we want, the one that weighs the least, right?
No.
No? Okay.
No. We want the mount that's the straightest and that holds up the best and that does the things we want it to do. So, question one with the mount on the gun is, do you care about QD or no? Do you want it to be quick detach or not? I'm going to tell you right now, for me, nah, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. How quick is quick detach on a mount? Quick enough for me to rip the mount off the gun, throw it, flip up my mag pull front, my mag pull rear, and then shoot you? No. Because that's going to take me 10 or 12 or 15 seconds. Because no. Right? Quick detach enough because I want this scope to be zeroed and squared away for 6 rifles. Nah, bruh. That ain't a thing. You fucking know that ain't a thing. Is it a thing enough to hold 0 on a couple different platforms? Maybe. Color me unconvinced. Is it a thing enough for like a QD mount, like a good let's see who's like Midwest or ADM or whoever's mounts that are gonna be good enough for a Trijicon MRO? Yeah, probably. You could probably make me a mount that's good enough to stay within 2 to 3 to 4 MOA. That's probably reasonable. And if your reticle is already 4 MOA and the mount has better tolerances than the fucking reticle does, okay, sure. I don't know if I believe that there's a like, hey man, I'm going to quick detach. So I'm going to rip this scope off this rifle and I'm going to click clack it onto the next rifle. And that bitch is going to be within a half MOA. I don't think that's a thing. I've never seen it be a thing. Right. And quite frankly, like, what's our 0 process for rifles? If it's a 50-yard 0, we're zeroing on a 7/8 inch paster at 50 yards. So what is that? That's a 1.5 MOA gun. Out at 100 yards, that's a 1.5 MOA gun. Minute of angle, 1/60th of a degree at a circle at 100 yards. 1.0236 inches at 100. Okay. So you're telling me that if I zero to within that standard, I zeroed. So the shooter and the gun and the mount and the scope and the barrel and the projectile are all squared away enough to be 1.5 MOA or less. And by the way, my EOTech Voodoo is fucking I don't know, 0.75 right now. After fucking with it for a little bit.
There you go.
Turns out the rifle Steve built me really likes heavy grain ammo, by the way. XM193, not so much. Not so bad, but not so much. MK262, fuck yes. Really happy. Great. And I'm fucking blind, y'all. I can't see my truck from here to the parking lot. Like, I'm blind as a motherfucker. So if I can do that, somebody with my shooting skills and, like, I don't know, Justin's eyesight, it'd be goddamn good. Okay. So you're going to tell me you're going to build me a quick detach mount that I can rip off that gun and put back on that gun and hold that level of precision? Nah. That's not a mechanical thing. So, we talk about scope lapping where we align the scope using alignment bars, and then we lap the scope with lapping compound back and forth to the point where we rough out all the machining failures in concentricity, and we get that mount to the point where it's perfectly straight, like fucking, laser aligned to where all that shit works. Great. And then you're telling me we take all that shit off the rifle, we put it all back on the rifle, and it stays the same? Not perfect. Good enough? Fuck yes. Goddamn good enough? Fuck yes. Military standard 4 MOA rack grade rifle? Fuck yeah. Sure. But I think we can do better. So I don't give me personally on the mounts, I don't give a fuck about quick detach. I'm going to bolt that sumbitch to the gun, and I don't ever want it to come off. And if the optic breaks, I'm going to ghost ring that motherfucker and shoot him anyway. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to go to my offset mounts. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to go to my visible white light. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to throw the sumbitch at him and draw my appendix carried pistol and shoot him with that. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to ghost ring him with that. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to call Justin. Those are my plans. That's all I got. What about weight for the mounts? Like, what do I want the mount to weigh? I'm not a bitch like Justin. I don't care about weight. So I don't care. I will tell you that I want the mount to encapsulate the entire optic. What I mean by that is I don't want those like stupid scope rings or that stupid mount that's meant to have a gap. Like, I want that shit to be seated flush. And I really like mounts that have levels on them if I can get them. Those are pretty cool. Then again, I mean, Justin and I mounted up my EOTech Voodoo. It wasn't too hard.
Dude.
Look at you.
Dude.
Look at you.
I can't eat. Look. Look.
What?
Okay, y'all. I don't know how much articulation you have on this camera. TJ knows what I'm talking about because he's been there before. And some of you Apache boys know what I'm talking about. The studio y'all are seeing right now. Yeah, okay, here we go. That is some PA Bubba Gunsmithing extraordinaire back there. I don't know if you all can tell, but the lighting back there is only acceptable if you are, if you see by braille or echolocation. He likes to take a work light, okay, because even he realizes he needs more light, okay, to see appropriately. He takes a work light. And does he shine it down onto the surface that he's working on to get a good view of the gun he's working on? No. He sets it in front of his face and shines it into his face. I don't know how he does this, but it works for him. And I'm like blind, like reaching around, like, and whatever, dude. He drops this thing into a scope. We found the receiver block after you were done clamping your gun into a vise, just like whatever, I don't care, whatever. Just doesn't give a shit. He's humming to himself. He just takes random screws out and goes, it feels right, and just runs them in. And I'm like, what are you doing? If we try hard enough, we can make this work. And spits on it, chews a little bit of gum, ties it with takes a shoestring out of his shoe, and I'm like, what are you doing? So he goes to line up the scope and the rings, right, to get the BDC dead top set, like north south with the bore of the gun. And he walks over to that punching bag y'all saw a second ago. I'm like, what are you doing, man? We're gonna need to hang like a string with like a plumb bob or whatever. We gotta find like a definitive straight line. For the love of God, like lock the receiver into the receiver block and lock it in to make sure the gun's level. He's wanders over, drops the receiver on the top of a soft punching bag. It's not even a hard surface. It's a soft punching bag. Gets behind it, aims at the wall paneling back there behind him, finds a straight line in the wall paneling, and goes, shines a flashlight on the wall, finds a straight line, and goes, that's actually pretty good. What do you think? And I'm like, there's no way. And he goes, well, you look at it and tell me what you think. I walk over, I get behind the gun, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It was like dead on with like the straight up in line vertical line on the wall. Only Kent. This would only work with Kent. If you all had spent some time in that basement with him, watching him attempt to make things work that clearly are not designed to work, but he's going to make them work anyway. Oh, it's the best. It's the absolute best. So that's fun.
Is it
level? It is. It's level. So says the bubble level that you have.
Well, okay. Like,
yeah. I'm just saying, based on a bubble level you have, it's level. Yeah.
Yeah, well. And it worked.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Whatever questions you have about LVPOs.
See, we talked about bullet drop. Well, I don't know. Have you ever really personally ever shot much where windage actually matters for you? I feel like I have not encountered anything where windage, therefore the Christmas trees and whatnot, are they really usable in the context of, like, I don't know. I'm sure we could dream up a scenario where they're usable, but I don't really want a reticle that's too busy, that adds more than I need.
So the answer to your question is yeah. I have taken shots where windage would have mattered. Most of them were in Vermont. Most of them were at elevation, and most of them were from elevation to elevation across like a canyon or a ravine or something like that, where there was a lot of wind in the funnel, but there wasn't so much wind at the target, nor was there at the shooter, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So yeah, I shot at an animal in Vermont, and missed it, by the way, like clean miss, like not, oh shit, we fucking wounded it, we got to go look for it. And the only thing I can figure is that there was a lot different wind in the ravine than there was where she was doe and where I was shooter. Yeah. I have. I like the ability to hold off, like, hey man, hold off a mill. Hey, hold off. I got a guy for the phone. Let me know. What?
This is back when you were talking about the next iPhone coming out.
Oh, right.
We were talking about the next thing development.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Tony does. If anybody has the info on the iPhone, I'm sure Tony does. But yeah, I've definitely taken shots that, windage would have mattered. I got to tell you the truth, though, Justin. I wouldn't have held any different because it would not have registered with me that there was a shitload of wind in the valley and no wind on the pine trees on the other side.
Sure. Yeah. Without a visual reference, it would have been hard to know.
And I'm not it's not like there was a highway under me or anything. I'm talking a real narrow fucking cut valley. It was only a 300-yard shot, maybe, but it's a shitload of wind in the middle.
Okay.
So
okay, yeah. I got another one for you. Eye box and cheek weld. Is there something I can do? This is not something I've really looked at a lot, but I could tell you it's something that currently the way my existing gun is set up with the LVPO that I do have, finding the eye box is not the easiest thing in the world. I've often wondered if playing with height over bore or playing with certain bracing and shapes of my stock on my rifle will help me find proper cheek weld, where when I slam my cheek down to get cheek weld eye box, can I find, should I be searching a little harder to find what works for me, or do I need to correct the software to make my behaviors match the equipment that I have? Like, can you speak to that at all?
The answer is yes to both.
Okay.
First of all, I don't know why you're slamming your cheek down when we're hollering at students all weekend to keep their eyes up and bring the optic up to their eyes.
Well, it's basically, buttstock in your chest.
Where?
Down to make contact.
Where's the buttstock?
It's in your pocket.
Who taught you that?
I don't know, bro. I've had 40 hours of rifle training.
Who taught you that? The guy that shot 11 people and they were all students?
Dude, nope. I haven't been taught hardly anything.
Funny.
What are you talking about?
No, I know. That's just funny to me.
It's like the rifle goes into the pocket.
It doesn't.
You put it where it. Well, you've never corrected me. You've never corrected me from what I do.
Higher up. Right here.
So it goes where it goes. Your eye comes down to find your sight. Yeah. Your eye finds it. But what I'm finding is that I can't find the eye box, man. Every time my head comes down to the gun, the eye box isn't where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So
whereas with a red dot, it doesn't matter.
All right.
So I've never had to teach myself that.
Yeah. I think with the red dot, it does matter a little more. I think there's more parallax than people realize with the red dot. But also, I think maybe what the conversation should really be about is how much experimentation do we do with length of pull? How much experimentation do guys do with dismounting and remounting the optic and pulling the optic further or closer back away from their face? Can we get the length of pull on the scope, or excuse me, length of pull on the stock to be further out and still get the work done? Where is the correct cheek to shoulder weld or cheek to pocket weld or whatever? And here's the truth: what you actually said was really, should I be experimenting more with what works for me? And the answer is fuck yeah, because nobody's got Steve in the chat has Mongo arms and a really long torso. Steve's geometry is going to be different than yours. So advising the two of you both on like, hey, well, this is where your eye box should be, is kind of not really the truth for one of you. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So this is where the mount really comes into play, which is, what do you want the height of the mount to be? Do you want a 150? Do you want a 154? Do you want a 172? Do you want a 194 mount height?
I think a lot of this comes down to muscle memory, like say shooting a gun on like the clay range or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of like put a tight weld with your cheek. And I don't think I've ever really been able to get away from getting my face down hard on the gun and like sucking tight into the gun. Cause at least once or twice now, I've attempted to shoot Steve setups, as a matter of fact, where he's got a much more upright position. And it's really just a contact point with your chin. And as my eye and my head float around, I'm not as accurate because there's much more. So he's got a red dot on this one the last time I tried it. And yeah, you definitely found the parallax in the system. I was not nearly as accurate as I was with my gun when I could come down tight to like a lower bore axis and tightly hold my face against the gun and keep my eye directly in line with the optic.
The other thing is how much shoulder weld do you really need to control recoil and be accurate with a rifle? I don't know if you've ever noticed, but about half of my buttstock is sticking out above my shoulder.
Yeah, I think a lot of it for me, I'm sure I'm doing the same thing. A lot of it's probably going to come down to, I don't know, perceived recoil on the gun, maybe. I don't know. I never really think about it, to be honest with you. I just know that there are times where when I roll into the eye box, it's not where it's supposed to be. Whereas I don't find that ever being an issue with the red dot.
Yeah, well, and that comes down to the LVPO too, right? Like the most forgiving eye box that I have so far. I don't have enough time on the Voodoo to be sure, but that Vortex 1-6, the Razor, has a super forgiving eye box.
Yeah, so that's something that like I'm interested in finding that. I do hear that the 1-10s are a little tighter. Like you as the software part have to be much more practiced at repeating your would you say that's the case?
No.
Really?
I don't know. And maybe I'm just really fucking good at it, which I kind of have a hard time believing.
Okay.
I don't think so. I was doing rifle dry fire down here the other day, and no. I mean, if you look at these dry fire targets I've got around me, I've got a 1-inch circle at, call it 8 yards. And I was snapping the optic up onto a 1-inch circle at 8 yards. Like pretty goddamn consistent. And I wasn't losing my eye box. What we mean by losing our eye box is we weren't noticing a visible scope shadow. We weren't seeing black around the edges of our scope. We were seeing all clear vision. That's what we're talking about. So let's define parallax, right? Like, so when we talk about this kind of stuff, we need to define parallax. Parallax is the apparent shift of a point of objective given an angle from point of view to point of origin. That's a Webster's definition. That's a real nice way of saying if you've ever been in the car with your spouse and she was over in the passenger seat and she was going, honey, why are you going 85? And you're driving and you're like, bitch, I'm going 65. It's like, no, you're going 85. And you're like, I'm for certain going 65. I can look at it and see it. The angle at which she is viewing the speedometer from is making the apparent, like the needle, look like it's in a different place than it really is. That is the visual effect of parallax. That's something everybody's experienced. So that's a nice little analogy for you. But parallax is all about angles, right? So if you're approaching a toilet paper tube like a scope is, right, from a different angle, you're seeing things considerably differently depending on what angle you're looking at it from. I blew your mind. Justin has left the chat.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you were talking to the.
What's that behind you? Is that your reloading press?
Yes. That is my very old ancient case feeder that does not. I don't know why they designed it this way, but apparently, if you go back far enough in time, Dylan's case feeder does not have a spring that meters the cases into the, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like the feed, like the circular device that feeds the cases. It's a hard piece of plastic, so that thing just jams consistently. You have to reach up and diddle it with your fingers. You have to give it a secret no bad touch to like knock the cases free so that it will feed again.
The views and opinions expressed on the Sling'N podcast are not necessarily those of the hosts, GMD Incorporated, GMY Industries, or Kent Hauer or TJ Ramsey.
Yep. So
bad touch, no. Jesus Christ. Okay. So I think if LVPOs were a horse, they'd be dead and we would have beaten them by this point. Let's talk about the other acronym. Want to talk about the other acronym? PSDs, Protective Security Details, or Personal Security Details. What does that mean to you, Justin? What's a personal security detail?
That is the professional team of armed individuals that you hire to basically watch your home while you sleep and to walk you to your chauffeured vehicle and put you in the back seat as they drive you to work, and they guard you all day at work, and then they proceed to drive you home. That's the protection. What do we call it again?
Personal security detail.
Personal security detail. That's what that is.
Okay.
Exactly. It's a personal security detail. It's professionals who have been trained to watch my back all day long.
Fantastic. Can you afford those people?
No.
Well,
that's why they're not very good at their job.
You can afford the Walmart version of the PSD. Some dude in a t-shirt with a bunch of wolves on it.
That's right.
That's a Walmart joke. It's a pretty good one. All right. So this is the part where TJ and I were going to expound on his professional background in, murdering minorities for oil. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
The views of the host of this podcast are not necessarily the views of his
It's funny.
Guest, right?
It's so much funnier when he's here. No. Personal security detail, like, right. Congratulations, you're it. If you've got a wife, if you got spouses, if you got children, if you got people you care about, if you got somebody who is visual representation inbound, here's your B8 target. The X is the thing that's most important to you on the planet Earth. If you've got somebody in your life who is an X, which means you are willing to do the things that are necessary for them, regardless of what the things are, congratulations, you are their personal security detail. You're the professionals, which means you better be up to the task, right? So the workout your willingness discussion, how far and for who, right? How far are we willing to go and for who are we willing to do those things? Leads us to a group of humans that we are willing to do fucking anything for, and I mean fucking anything, right? And when we get to that point, and by the way, you might be a lonely bachelor and nobody loves you like Justin, and that human is only yourself. You're your own ex, right? That's fine. But whoever those humans are, if the answer is for who and it's this person, and the question is how far and it's fucking there is no end, then congratulations, you're that person's personal security detail. Are you up to the task? Are you equipped to be that person's personal security detail? Are you willing to tell them, hey, not today. Hey, this ain't a good place to be. Hey, this ain't a good time. Are you willing to go to work for them if they need it? Are you capable and are you prepared, right? So this was meant to be a conversation about willingness, preparedness, and I was going to speak to TJ's experience in nasty places with nasty people, securing himself and themselves from others. But I don't have TJ here, so I'm going to talk to Justin about it. So, Justin, for who are you a personal security detail? Who are you willing to go that far for?
Yeah. Adopted family and friends, right? Like
Adopted family. That's a great term.
I mean, I've got very, very few blood relatives that meet that threshold for me. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. So when Green Mountain Defense holds up the Sharpie and says, hey, y'all, no shoots have names. You fuck that shot up. I need you to put a name on that. Whatever name you're putting on that target is somebody who you're probably also willing to be a personal security detail for. That's kind of like my general viewpoint on this. So what are your responsibilities as somebody who's in charge of security for another human, right? Or for yourself as a human? I think one of the things that we kind of miss in this conversation is the ability to avoid and to take the off ramps, right? So can you think of an instance in the last couple of years where you've avoided conflict?
Yeah, for sure.
Tell us a story about 3 minutes long while I go pee.
All right. Well, I think probably the easiest example of a situation like this that perhaps everybody listening can relate to, and especially those of you who I've had the honor of sharing firing lines with, who have we've watched go through the development from initial entry point into the mindset to where you end up, is road rage, right? How many of us, when we're younger, when we aren't carrying firearms, when we aren't carrying tools that could project lethal force, are so willing and get pulled into road rage incidents with other human beings? We might be the ones that instigate it. We might not be the ones that instigate it, but we're definitely willing to engage with the other person and continue to escalate that situation because ego, because emotion, because I'm angry, I'm upset. They shouldn't have done that to me, and I didn't deserve it, and whatever. F those guys, right? There comes a point, I think, when you begin you treat the topic a little more seriously, and often, at least from my perspective and what I've seen from others in my life, is that when you begin to carry a firearm on your person, not just a gun owner where it's in a safe or it's in a drawer at the house or whatever, but when it's like it's shoved in your belt, you have the ability right now to pull that thing out and use it. All of a sudden, you no longer have the ability to get into that altercation. There's a part of your brain that's going, I need to disengage. I need to apologize. I need to wave them off. Say, my bad. I'm sorry. let them go, pull over, just do not engage, just stay away, because if it continues to escalate to where that gun is employed, you were the one that brought it there. That's probably the biggest thing I can come up with in the most recent pertinent change in behavior of the last couple of years in my life.
I got one for you.
Okay.
You were recently tasked at your second job to go with my wife and hand out flyers at a Redneck Carnival Festival. And the people at the Redneck Carnival Festival started doing Redneck Carnival Festival things. And you were present for a kind of sort of almost physical domestic where I wasn't and where my wife was. Remember that?
Yeah.
Because Pepperidge Farm members.
Yep.
And the story that I was told secondhand was that you started to fucking do all the things you were taught. And moreover, you became a different person when it came to hey, the people around me cannot get hurt. Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't really think about that, but
yeah. So when we talk about adopted family, apparently you done adopted my wife as family, which is a good idea because I'm going to die in some terrible accident and she's going to need a reasonable facsimile of me. And I mean,
some dishwasher repair scenario where your legs are just flailing from underneath. We don't know what happened, but it involved lots of soap. He did not survive the soap.
I've ever hated anybody else my whole life. Oh, is that funny or what? Yeah, that'll be it. It won't be me doing hero shit with a gun. It'll be dying under a fucking goddamn dishwasher. Yeah, that is probably accurate. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. But no, right? Congratulations, bro. You're elected. It's your job to protect my wife. Did I know that dumbass McGee was going to do dumbass McGee things at the carnival? Nah. If I would have, what's the first tough guy answer to that? If I would have, I'd have been there, right? No. If I would have, Green Mountain Defense wouldn't have gone and handed out flyers.
Right.
That's the real answer. Not, I'd have been there to make sure it was okay. No, none of my people, none of my staff, none of my family would have been there.
Yeah.
I'd have known what was going to happen that night. You wouldn't have been there. No Hirsch would have been there. No Sofa would have been there. Nobody would have fucking been there. James, nobody. Ain't nobody going to be there if I know it's coming. But we don't know it's coming. And yet some stupid shit happens. Mm-hmm. And who's there doing what? Well, Justin's there evaluating for angles, looking at PID, deciding whether this is going to get worse or not, wondering where the fucking cops are, having conversations with the firefighters about this ain't going to go the way you think it is. All the things are happening. And in the moment, you became the professional security detail for my wife.
Yeah. Now that you're bringing that story up and I'm remembering that, it was I could analyze that a little bit. I could self-analyze it a little bit. I was, first of all, very impressed with Sophie backing me up, because every time I looked back at her, she was looking at me like she knew she had my back when I had my focus somewhere else. I was very, very impressed and thankful for that. I was somewhat surprised at the lack of awareness the firefighters demonstrated. Hard to quantify that, but just some of the things they were saying, some of their focus and intent where it was. And there were a few times I lost sight of the guy and I started getting real nervous real fast. Where is his hands? Where is he? What's in those bags? Dude had 5, it was homeless guy, had 5 bags on him. And he starts taking the bags off. And these guys are just standing around, not even reacting. And I'm like, whoa, why is he taking the bags off? Where are those hands? Where's he going? They weren't even reacting hardly. Just realizing that, in that moment, I guess that between Sophie and I, it's the two most prepared people standing right there. And it was to her credit, she kind of wanted to leave immediately. And if I could self-critique, it was more I want to make sure nobody gets hurt. I didn't want her to get hurt. And want other people to get hurt. Maybe we should have left immediately, but it was almost like I was afraid to turn my back on the situation because it was dynamic and unfolding, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So that was a decision that had to be made. And I don't know if it wasn't easy, because it's like getting out of here is definitely a valid decision, but you have to turn your back on it to get out of there, you know? And then you have to leave people behind that, you know, you find out in the moment you're not really willing to leave behind. That's surprising. You don't really sometimes realize that, I think, until you're in that moment.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for one thing, you have the whole job about like, who are you here for?
Yeah.
So this is a different conversation. Like, it's not you, it's me. And her and James are there.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I'm stuffing that kid in the Jeep. I'm probably not even putting him in the car seat. Like, we're fucking out of here. I'll go put him in the car seat at Walmart. Like, but we're leaving, right? So if my kid's there, my spouse is there, like, my job as the person who's the PSD for this family. Congratulations, Northern York Regional. You could deal with your homeless miscreant guy. Like, I ain't here for this. I'm out. Y'all get paid for this. I don't. I'm going to stuff my toddler and my wife in that Jeep, and we are out. I mean, shit, we had a $1,000 big screen TV and a $1,000 iMac computer sitting there. I'd have let both of them motherfuckers sit there. Like, we're out. We're leaving. We are not staying here. You know, if I don't hear gunshots 40 minutes from now, I might come back for my crap. Otherwise, I'm out of here. Like, that's a different conversation. Now, if you haven't really worked out who you're willing to go to work for and who you're not, now you're stuck in that interesting place. And you said it. There's perfect strangers that you're feeling some level of responsibility to, right?
Yeah, I did not anticipate that.
Sure.
Really didn't.
So if you're the the professional security detail for for Reverend Payne, and your client is Reverend Payne and only Reverend Payne, that means that your whole job is to get the new priest the fuck out of the wedding before he gets murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your only job. You can't be everybody's professional security detail.
Yep.
That's not a thing that you could be.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was mentally aware of these concepts prior to that event unfolding. I thought I was ready for it. I thought I had my mind made up. I thought I was ready to go. In the moment, it wasn't as clear a decision as I would like to tell you it was. So that was an interesting lesson learned about myself that, if I'm being honest, I wasn't super proud about, but like it was like, it probably should have just been, let's get out of here and go. But,
maybe.
that feeling of, doing for other people just kind of clouded that decision, made it much more complicated pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, who knows, right? We don't know. For all we know, 4 nights after the festival, there was a domestic at that girl's house, and that dude showed up. I honestly don't know. Do you know what happened after that?
I mean, I had a brief conversation with the woman who the homeless guy was trying to start things with.
Right.
And I asked her, I was like, why don't you leave? Why don't you just walk away? Like, why are you standing here engaging him? Why are you letting him just shout at you? Like give me some details. Why aren't you choosing to disengage from him? And, they had lived nearby the carnival and they'd walked. So they were kind of afraid to disengage from the crowds and the lights and everybody else in case he followed them home. They didn't have a vehicle to go to. So it wasn't even as simple as the firemen and all the other volunteers at the fireman carnival could keep him busy so that they could get to the vehicle. It was like, and eventually it came to a thing where, like you said, the police were so slow in responding that eventually, thank God, the guy kind of gave up and walked off. He just decided it wasn't worth his time anymore. And he walked off to cool down or whatever he needed to do in his own head to break himself of the scenario. And at that point, I suggested that, like, we've got eyes on him. He can't follow you. If you break away now, he'll lose contact. And I said, does he know where you live? And she said, no, we haven't been a thing or an item for like 12 years. I haven't seen him in all this time. And I said, okay, well, what does he know? And she said, he knows where I used to live with my parents. So I said, you should probably tell your parents so that he doesn't show up at their house and scare the hell out of them. And so they left, got out of there. The police showed up moments later and talked with the guy. It was peaceful, and he walked off. So that was how that one ended.
Well, that was how that one ended that night, is my point. That's
right.
Yeah. That's 2 months ago.
Yeah, the last I heard. And then the next day when we came, what was it, 2 or 3 days later?
We were there. We were there later.
You were there for that. I mean, the last thing I heard was the same thing that you heard when we were talking to the fire chief that was there. Learned about the guy's background. He had been a local boy that had left, apparently, to join the service, if I remember correctly, and had been to war and perhaps was not dealing with the trauma of that very well.
Yep.
And sadly, that followed him into his personal life back home.
Yep.
And that was the last I heard about it.
Right. But my point is, like, I don't read the York Daily Record every day.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a story in Dover, Pennsylvania about how a disgruntled homeless veteran murdered his ex-wife, for all we know.
Right.
I'm not putting that on you. What I'm saying is maybe you should have just shot the motherfucker that night. We don't know. We'll never, like, there is no right answer. I guess is my point here. Like, maybe Northern York Regional should have found a reason to fucking lock him up and keep him there. Maybe the VA should have helped him fix his problems with mental health before he was ever released back into fucking normal like, there's a million maybes here.
Mm-hmm.
What I know, and what was recounted to me by my person who is an ex, who's somebody who I'm willing to do all the things for, was that in that moment, she was like, Justin was ready to fucking absolutely go to work for me. That's what I know. The only thing I know for sure is that my wife, by your actions, intentions, posture, presence, was like, she was like kind of joking, but kind of like, yeah, like our soft cripple friend turned into a fucking mean, angry warrior guy real fast. Right? Like, when it's time to be the protective security detail for somebody else, all of a sudden, here he is. Right? So instead of talking about professional security details for everybody else, why don't we talk about them for ourselves? Why don't we ever think of ourselves as the primary like focus of all this? And that, like, this, we stumbled into this, right? Like, I honest to God thought I was going to be talking about this with TJ tonight. I thought there would be other examples, but dude, like, if y'all don't think you mean enough to somebody else to be worth you doing X level shit for yourself, you're fucking crazy. Like, why aren't you willing to go that far for yourself? And the you is the royal you, everybody hearing the sounds of the microphone, not just Justin. But we get in our heads about this whole, like, the willingness, work out your willingness, who are you willing to do this for, how far are you willing to go? What if you're just, like, willing to do it for yourself? Is that not enough? Is it not enough to say, you know what, dude, I'm not willing to be victimized. I'm not willing to die. I'm not willing to be hurt. I'm not willing to be harmed just for you. Like, just because you matter, because you fucking matter. You matter to me. That's all I'm saying. So I think what we try to do as men is we try to externalize this. We try to make it about the women, the children, the mothers, the parents, the grandparents, the schools, right? Like, you know, the Uvalde shit, the Parkland shit, the whatever, like, the community, all these other people at large. What about, like, hey, I'm not going to get caught up in the middle of your fucking domestic because you're homeless and whacked out. I'm not going to let you hurt anybody around here because I might be one of those people and I'm skilled enough to stop you. Is that not okay?
Yeah. Valid, valuable. I can tell you that's something a guy like me needs to hear.
Yeah.
I don't have the easy answer. You and I have talked about this briefly in other conversations in the past, but like you find yourself in a room full of guys that are, you know, attempting to educate themselves and train for that moment and put themselves mentally in that space. And they say exactly what you just said. They say the easy stuff. I'm doing this for my wife. I'm doing this for my girlfriend. I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for. It's like when you're by yourself, it's a little more challenging. You know, being able to say, doing it for myself.
Yep.
That should be acceptable, because you don't know when an unforeseen need of your services will arrive in your life, and you rise to that challenge sometimes without realizing you were going to rise to that challenge. But you still need to be there. You still need to be there. Like, so, or that can't happen.
Yep. It's just an interesting way to look at it, right? Because
yeah, absolutely.
We can talk about all the principles of personal security details of limiting access. We could talk about patterns of life and behavioral cues and never taking the same route to the same place twice. We could talk about where to sit in a restaurant and how to position yourself so that you're never back to more than two entrances. We talk about all the fucking mechanics of this, and maybe that's another episode. But at the end of the day, like, hey man, are you going to go to work or not? And if you're going to go to work, what are we doing it for? And is just us okay? I know dudes are having things in their life where they've been married to the same woman for a decade and finding out that like the marriage isn't where they thought it was, or they're finding out that hey, there's problems in other places and other people. Why am I not important? Why just me, Kent? Why does Kent not deserve not to fucking die in this mess? And as dudes, we get in this spot where it's like, oh well, fucking, I need to go and I need to do the thing for them. Why can't I go do the thing for me? I don't know. I think that's a double-edged sword, right? Like I know for damn sure that James and Sophia give a real fuck whether Kent comes home today or not. So if Kent gets in a mess and Kent does some Kent shit to stay alive, James and Sophia are going to be very happy that Kent did some Kent shit, stayed alive, and now here we are.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Also, so is Kent. And that's okay. Like, I'm allowed to want to fucking still be here.
Right.
I don't need to be the sacrificial martyr. We're not Muslim extremists with click-clack vests. We're not suicide bombers. Like, we're here to survive for ourselves too.
Yeah, it's super valuable that you're putting voice to this, because I'm remembering as you're talking an instance, perhaps it was this past February. It might have been the February prior, but we did a class with some just some basic introduction for students. That there was a woman there, a mother, and oftentimes in these entry level classes that they're so early in the mental journey to decide whether carrying a firearm is for them. She had not made I don't think she'd made the decision to carry yet. She was still struggling with if she was going to or not. You may remember this woman, but you were walking her through the same kind of discussion you're having now about like, is her life worth it? So like, she basically admitted she would, fight to the death for lack of a better word, for her husband or for her children. But you really had to like show her that fighting for her own self was worth carrying the gun.
Yeah.
And it was like, she just couldn't wrap her mind that she was valuable enough on her own.
Yep.
To put the effort in to carry the firearm, to learn the things she needs to learn, to be confident, so that she would come home.
Yep.
Because her kids need her, because her husband needs her. And yeah, that was interesting. I'm remembering that conversation.
This one kills me with moms. This bothers the shit out of me with moms. I'm gonna tell you right now. Dude, if you are the mother of my kid, beyond all else, like the fact that I'm in a well-adjusted marriage and everything is good is irrelevant to like how important is mom to those kids. Mom is the most important human being on the planet Earth to every human under the age of like 20.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's somebody under the age of 20 that calls you mom, you are their most important piece in the whole universe. Like, it's going to go to shit if you ain't around for them. Right? And you know, perhaps I have a skewed viewpoint on this. My own mother just got back from going to Rome for fucking 3 weeks. My mom's a goddamn gangster. My mom ain't afraid of shit. I'm just telling. My mom is not afraid of a fucking thing.
I know.
I can't get her to be afraid of shit she should actually be afraid of. She don't care. Like, and the only thing I can say to her is like anymore is like, hey man, that little boy needs his grandma too. Like that's about all I got left in that conversation. But you know, we talk to young mothers in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and they've got kids that are anywhere from 0 to 20, and they're, well, you know, for my children, I would do anything. And it's like, well, would you though? Because I can't get you to carry a fucking gun. I can't get you to carry pepper spray, a flashlight, and a med kit. Well, no, that's just not that's not going to be a thing. Well, all right, maybe it's not going to be a thing. But like, what if it is? You are the most important human. If you've got a toddler, let's be real. Sophia is the most important human in James's life by a factor of like 10. I'm probably number 2. Maybe not. His grandmother might be number 2, if we're being honest. Like, dude, that kid needs his damn mama.
Yep.
Now, I don't have to have this conversation in my house, thank God, but imagine being a husband who's trying to convince his wife, like, hey, honey, I need you to be ready to protect these kids. That's bad enough. Let alone, hey, honey, even if you're not with these kids, I need you to be ready to protect yourself because I need you to come back here to these kids. So my whole idea with this whole personal security detail was just to be like, hey, how fucking personal is it? Because we could all visualize ourselves as the John Wick guy who's here to protect a bunch of other people, but are we willing to internalize that? Are we willing to turn the spotlight? Are we willing to make ourselves the center of that protective detail? And are we willing to say, I fucking matter enough to do all this for myself? I don't know. Sometimes I don't think we're willing to do all that. You know, people's actions, you know, certainly display that. Sometimes they're not willing to do the things that they should be. Whether it's time in the gym, whether it's time on the weights, whether it's time behind the gun, whether it's time in jiu-jitsu, whether it's time in mid-class, whatever it is, they're not putting in the time. I would just ask those people why. I care enough, and most people do too. Most people, I think, really, really suffer with this whole like they cannot envision the problem that they're attempting to solve. It's not that I am not sitting here saying if you're not willing to carry a gun, you don't give a fuck about your kids. That's actually not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, have you envisioned the number of ways that somebody might try to take you away from your children, or something might try to take you away from your children? And then what are you going to be willing to do to stop that from happening? That's all. Could be diabetes or it could be Bloods and Crips. I don't know. Anywhere in between. I broke Justin.
No, you're right, man.
Justin is pensively thinking right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like I'm just thinking of some people in my life that I would like to convince, but they get afraid. I think once they begin to start to form the reality of those thought boundaries, it scares them off.
Sure.
I've got an individual that I care about as a friend of mine that, she would never carry a gun. I could just where she's at, how she feels about him. I don't think we could ever get her to do it. I think she's been prompting from her husband. She carries a knife, and even through his own words, when I was talking with him about it, he thinks it was just to get him to shut up because he just wanted her to, have something because she was by herself, lots of travel and stuff. And I ended up talking with her on my own at the other end of this trip. She was traveling. Found out, and I think I asked her. I overheard a story she was sharing with another coworker about having to stop to use the bathroom on a 12-hour journey from up the eastern seaboard.
A 12-mile journey.
Oh, yeah, 12-mile journey. And she was telling this other coworker how she was afraid because she pulled off at the wrong exit. It wasn't what she thought it was. She's going to the bathroom by herself. There were creepy people sneaking up into her personal space. And anyway, I pulled her aside and I was like, "Do you have pepper spray?" And she kind of just blinked at me, and I offered her my pepper spray.
Yep.
I said, "Do you have like a bright light or something that you could shine in someone's eyes if you had to disorient or expose someone who, along the lines of like a whistle or something?" She did not. I offered her the equipment that I had in my pockets because I know I have extras elsewhere, and I'm not likely to need it statistically as much as she is in those scenarios. Plus, I carry a gun, and she denied me that. She would not accept any of that stuff. I could see on her face that she was offended is not the right word, but she was scared that I had brought it up.
Put off.
Yes, thank you. That's the best word for it. She was put off that I brought it up, that I had probably got her thinking of things she had never thought about before. She tried to deny the pepper spray and the flashlight and things like that. She said, "Well, I have a knife." I said, "Yeah, okay. Was it with you?" "Well, it was in the truck." Right. While you're telling the story of the guy who cornered you exiting the bathroom. Right. And so then, like you said, she realized just how she was completely defenseless in that scenario, and she didn't even have a knife in her pocket. So I have since spoken to her husband and said, "Would you do me a favor and please take the knife back, at least until she gets some sort of training with it, and instead get her to carry pepper spray and like a whistle and a bright flashlight. At least get her to stick these things in her pockets if she's not willing to get training with a knife or a firearm or something." And I need to follow up on that, but yeah, that was interesting because it's almost like she's mentally not. She's afraid of what could happen to her. Clearly, that worries her, but she's after the acknowledgement of fear that something might happen to me. She's unable to transfer her thoughts and her emotions into like, I'm worth protecting on my own.
That's my problem.
Right? Like, I'm afraid something will happen to me, but I don't believe that I can do anything about it. Therefore, it's everyone else's problem. Right. Society as a whole needs to change. The laws need to change. The police need to be there. You can't have that. This person can't have that. No one can have it. So then I feel safe about my vulnerabilities. Yep. But it's like it's such a circular roundabout, never going to happen. Just care, just empower yourself. Like face your fears, realize you're worth it, empower yourself. So yeah, I sadly have not been able to figure out how to connect to this particular individual. I don't know that I will be the one to connect to them, but I hope they do find their path moving forward in life.
Yeah, we all have examples of it, but my whole message with the PSD thing is like, you're your own Secret Service.
Yeah.
Put a high enough value on your own self. That's my whole thing there. Well, it's late, 11 o'clock at night.
Oh,
You got to get up at tomorrow morning at 7:30 to teach all those private lessons you got to teach tomorrow, right? Right?
I'm feeling like I might have COVID.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fucking. Yeah. Fine. I'll teach you private lessons in the morning. If you're on the podcast right now, I'm absolutely looking forward to our private lesson in the morning, and I can't wait to do the stuff with the guns. It'll be great. Oh, jeez. Well, you got anything? Last final thoughts, wrap ups, conclusions? How many LVPO? Wait. We agreed that you were going to buy an LVPO on the air.
We
agreed.
What'd you say? The royal we?
We agreed that you were going to buy. The royal we agreed that the singular you was going to buy an optic on air. So what optic are you buying? Show me the receipt. Do it now.
Here's my. Oh, you know what? I dropped it on the ground.
Do it.
It's
What optic do you want? It's on the Christmas list.
I keep coming back to it's probably worth just spending the money.
Yeah.
Like, this is probably something that I shouldn't cheap out on.
Right.
And I keep coming back to the Vortex 1-6E model. That's the lighter weight model.
So the Vortex 1-10, $2,600. Got it.
Right. Yeah, the 1-10. Only because like the 1-6 is a little bit more affordable.
Yeah.
I know the 1-10. The Vortexes worked their special wizard magic and made them all weigh the same. But price is a pretty big concern. I think 6X is better than no X.
6X, that's a T-shirt. That's tonight's T-shirt.
6X is better than no X.
It's better than no X. That is true.
Some X's are better than no X's, and yeah, man, I like the idea of the daylight bright red dot. I like the more forgiving eye box. If I'm gonna have to tolerate the weight, I'm gonna have to tolerate the weight. So I might as well get as many wins in the other categories as I can. Like select the proper mount. Figure out whatever changes I have to make to my cheek weld and eye box and presentation and all the other shenanigans that I don't have enough practice in that are making it difficult. Yeah, probably that's what I'm going to be looking at. Probably a Vortex, just because. Although I'm interested, one of these days I want to shoot this new EOTech that you've got to see if that speaks to me at all. So.
I'm just Googling. Vortex Optics Razor HD Gen 2 1-6 by 24E. Second focal plane. Nope. First focal plane is what we want. Boop, boop, boop.
I don't know that they make it in first. It might need to go to the 1-10 for the first.
Boop, boop, boop.
I'm unaware of a model version that they have.
Optics Planet. Oh, it's got a mount included at Optics Planet. $1,400. I send you a link. You buy. You put up receipt online. Credit card.
Yeah.
Do it. I'm like Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. Do it.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of the Sling'N Led podcast. Oh, I got to do the fucking ad read, TJ. God damn you. www.greenmountaindefense.com/affiliate-links. If you're going to buy gun stuff, buy it anyway. Buy it from us. Not really from us, from our friends. To give us pennies, you give them many dollars. It's a good idea. Please buy the things. GoFundMe, www.gofundme.com/some things and some things and some other things. It's in the show notes. Go support our boy Cameron Hayes. He could really use a leg up right now. Yeah.
But
right. But tisk. Give him a hand, would you?
Or two.
Put a finger on a donation. This is fucked up. This is really funny. Go help Cam. Cam's got a t-shirt, Sling'N all that good stuff. Go buy Cam's shirt. We have merch. Go buy our Teespring stuff. Green Mountain Defense, Empowering the Timid t-shirts. Green Mountain Defense, Run Your Gun Not Your Mouth t-shirts, Sling'N Lead podcast t-shirts, all the t-shirts. If you want a t-shirt, get it at the Teespring store. Go Buy Medical, Dark Angel Medical. Use code BB15 for 15% off your order. Tell them Sling'N Lead podcast sent you in the show notes. We don't get anything from that. We just want you to buy medical because medical is a good idea. Take a med class if you haven't. If you can't take one from me, take one from Carrie. If you can't take one from Carrie, take one from me. It's a really good life choice. If you missed the live show, be sure to catch us on Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, BuzzSprout, YouTubes, and everywhere else fine podcasts are served. We have 32 outlets for this podcast right now and an average of 4,000 downloads per episode. Isn't that fucking cool? That's really fucking cool. I like that a lot. Green Mountain Defense, www.greenmountaindefense.com/training. If you want to get on the calendar, take a private lesson from Justin. Justin needs something to do at Saturday morning at 8 a.m., so hit him up for private lessons. Green Mountain Defense /the Bifida will get you 10% off a fictional fucking class with Justin that I just made up on the spot because he's on the podcast. So if you use the Spina Bifida coupon code, it'll get you a private lesson with Justin. It'll be great. Subscribe to TJ's Sling'N Lead podcast or the Lead Sling and Ginger channel. Subscribe to the Green Mountain Defense channel. Subscribe to the Sling'N Lead podcast channel. Please, 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 please. As always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have questions or comments, please post them below. All firearms were checked, cleared, and rendered safe prior to film. What the fuck is this? TJ, bullshit. There's goddamn ammo in this motherfucker. I don't know what the hell that says. I just dropped the mag. Get in there. Yeah. No desk pops. Goddamn guns are not checked or cleared or safe for anything. Golly. What a terrible, terrible, terrible ad read this is. I'm not reading the rest of this. My name's Kent Hauer. That is Justin Payne, the Reverend himself. He's available for weddings, private lessons, Subaru consulting, 24-volt lighting.
12 volt.
12-volt lighting.
12 volt.
Half. I don't know. That's what he does. So
hazardous waste paperwork, filing.
Hazardous waste paperwork if you have some hazardous waste paperwork to do. Or most importantly, if you need somebody to hobble up and down the range and carry your targets, he's your man.
Yeah, if you need somebody to walk in your presence and make you feel better about yourself, I'm your guy.
Right. It'll be fine. Thanks, everybody. As always, until we shoot each other again, get out and shoot. God bless. This is the part where I say something funny at the end, but since I read TJ's part, I can't possibly do my stupid little thing. I'm clicking the button now.
Bye-bye.
Button
Bye-bye.
is being clicked.
Bye.